Our story begins in a world where everyone survives in underground colonies. Outside these colonies exists a vast underworld known as the Labyrinth. It's a land full of dangerous monsters, but also peaceful animals, beautiful scenery, and mysterious ancient technology. And those who explore this vast underworld in search of fame and glory are called markers. Memempu is a genius 9-year-old girl who has a recurring dream of a mysterious place that she believes exists within the labyrinth. Despite the dangers, she wishes to become a marker so she can find out if this place is real or not. Gagumber, Memempu's father and another ridiculous name, refuses to let his daughter pursue such a dangerous career. On the night of a festival, the two hang out with Walsh and Linda, a father-daughter marker duo. Gagumber tells Walsh that he is struggling to accept his daughter's ambitions, and wonders how Walsh was emotionally ready to give Linda permission to become a marker. Walsh replies that he never did, and still hasn't. After the festival, Memempu returns home, where she receives a mysterious package from a legendary marker known as Europe, another crazy name. She spends all night analyzing the gem that was found inside. The next day, Memempu explains that she believes the gem contains a map that leads to the place she's been seeing in her dreams. Suddenly, the colony is attacked by a creature known as Kaiju. They live in the labyrinth and usually never make it this far into the colonies. When Memempu tries to help, Linda tells her that she's just a little kid, and that she needs to stay with her father. This breaks Memempu's heart, but Walsh tells his daughter that he's proud of how mature she's grown, moments before they're both blown to pieces. After overcoming the shock of witnessing their friends dying, Gagumber begs his little girl to give up on her dream of becoming a marker. Memempu then breaks down crying and says that despite what she just experienced, she still wants to go out and see the place from her dreams. Gagumber realizes that he can't send his daughter off alone, but he also can't stop her from leaving, so he decides to join her on her journey and takes his old marker bot out of storage. They leave the storage but are still being chased by the Kaiju, when another Kaiju suddenly appears. This is Memempu's first time facing real danger, and she is terrified, but her father reassures her that they're going to make it out of this alive if she just believes in herself. After calming down, she comes up with a plan to bait the Kaijus out of the colony. Once outside, she tells her father exactly where to shoot and dig, causing the ground to collapse and the Kaijus to fall into a pit. She then throws a bomb into the pit and sets the Kaijus ablaze. Afterwards, they return to the colony and mourn the loss of Linda and Walsh. Later that day, Memempu makes several changes and fixes to the bot, and names it Big Tony. She named it after her favorite sheep plushie, who is just regular-sized Tony. Once the dust settles, the father-daughter duo finally set off on their grand adventure. Now outside the colony, Memempu turns the gem into a necklace that she can activate at any time to see the map. Gagumber explains that some parts of the labyrinth have already been mapped out by markers, and that they have established safe roads and base camps for traveling between colonies. They arrive at a base camp and recharge their bot and their stomachs, and get some sleep. The next morning, they argue over where to go next as Gagumber wants to stick with the familiar and safe routes, while Memempu wants to follow the pendant, which means going through uncharted territory. Suddenly, a Kaiju appears and attacks the base camp. Memempu decides to follow her own path and jumps into a trench, believing it to be a shortcut to Jolly Jolly, their next destination. While walking through the cold, slippery cavern, she comes across human remains, and is soon chased by a swarm of small Kaijus. She locks herself in a storage crate, with seemingly no way out. Sleep-deprived, cold, and afraid, she cries out for Gagumber to save her. As the small Kaijus break through the crate, Gagumber arrives just in time, like a prince in shining armor, and saves his little girl. The two escape the cavern and make their way to Jolly Jolly, the next colony. But when they arrive, they are greeted by a man who has been patiently awaiting their arrival. He is Meroro, yet another character with a difficult name. He arrests Gagumber and his daughter for violating the rules of the labyrinth, but gives them permission to go sightseeing in Jolly Jolly while they await the details of their punishment. Surprisingly, they explore what seems to be the remains of Italy. They have the Colosseum, the Leaning Tower, and even have the Mafia, who suddenly appear in a bar after Gagumber is seen flirting with a woman. She is Zaklatu, a wanted criminal. When the Mafia starts shooting up the bar, Gagumber buys time for Zaklatu and Memempu to escape, but he's eventually captured. The Mafia Don explains that Zaklatu has a bounty of $10 million, and that he is willing to split the profits with Gagumber if he tells him where she is, but Gagumber refuses. Zaklatu arrives a few moments after the Mafia leaves, and offers to save Gagumber's life for a small payment of $1 million. With no other choice, he reluctantly agrees and the two run away, with the Mafia right behind them. They put up the best fight they can, but they're eventually completely surrounded, until Memempu arrives on Zaklatu's motorcycle and barely manages to save them in time. After escaping, Gagumber admits to Zaklatu that he's completely broke and has no way of ever repaying her. She vows to never stop chasing after him until she receives her payment and leaves right before the cops close in on their location, and Mororo arrives to arrest them again. The father-daughter duo are then taken to Windy Hill, a lush area full of grass and trees, to carry out their punishment of hard labor for the trouble they caused in Jolly Jolly. Memempu sees a wasteland nearby and notices that no wind is blowing through the area. Mororo then decides to take Memempu and Gagumber to the wind-producing machine, which he refers to as the Temple of the Wind God. Mororo explains that this is ancient technology that controls the flow of wind in the underworld, and that modern humanity has been unable to decipher how it even works. He further explains that this machine is broken and has been leaking animus, an incredibly corrosive and toxic substance found throughout the labyrinth. Memempu decides to try and repair the machine, even though it's not part of their punishment. The three put on protective suits and venture towards the problem area, but are blocked by the shifting structure of the machine and end up taking a break. Sometime during their break, Memempu notices that the lines in her pendant's map represent the flow of animus, allowing her to locate the source of the animus leak within the machine. Together, the three repair the machine and get it running again. Afterwards, Memempu checks to see if the wind has returned. Meanwhile, Mororo tells Gagumber that Memempu might be too smart for her own good. He warns him that curiosity killed the cat and hopes that Gagumber will be able to continue to keep her safe. Having completed their work, Mororo then releases the duo and allows them to continue on their journey. After leaving Jolly Jolly, they run into Yuri, the only person with a normal name. The two are taken to a secret hideout where Yuri explains that he is the leader of a gang of orphans who aim to bring justice and equality to their colony. They surprisingly run into Zaklatu again, who demands that Gagumber pays her what he owes, so that she can use that money to pay for Yuri's hacking services. But since they have no money, the two are put to work to pay off their debt. Yuri reveals to Memempu that he was experimented on by the colony's president, and was given mechanical arms before being tossed aside for being deemed worthless. Thanks in part to those arms, he is now an expert hacker and plans to use his hacking skills to expose the corruption in his colony. Memempu and Gagumber help Yuri's gang steal money, food, and jewelry from the rich that they then give back to those in need. But when the president announces that he is shutting down all orphanages, a frustrated and desperate Yuri decides that they must take control of the colony by force in order to bring about true justice. Gagumber, Memempu, and one of Yuri's childhood friends all work together to try and stop him before it's too late. Yuri tells them that this world is wrong and unfair as he thinks back to the savage beating he received as a child for stealing a simple piece of bread. They eventually get Yuri to realize that although the colony is wrong, his vision of justice is also wrong, and that he cannot use force to change the world. Instead, Gagumber convinces Yuri to hack into the station and broadcast the president's sleaziness and corruption to everyone in the colony. Following these events, Zaklatu decides that she'll be following the father-daughter duo until Gagumber repays his debt to her, and Yuri decides to join them as well. They spend the next several days traveling together to get to the next colony, which is secretly Gagumber's hometown. While sleeping, Memempu has the same dream she always has, except this time she can hear a baby crying in the background, and she also sees Gagumber dying, while Urarop, the legendary marker, slowly walks towards her. When she awakens, she believes that what she saw was far too real to be just a dream, and fears for what might happen to her father when they get to the place from her dreams. When the four arrive at the next colony, Gagumber admits that the smell of the city reminds him of his old partner, Rufus, and his younger brother, Zack. Gagumber explains to Yuri how he used to be a marker, and how he blames himself for his partner's death and for leaving Zack all alone. Meanwhile, Memempu talks to Zaklatu about the dream she had in which Gagumber died, but Zaklatu drugs Memempu and ties her up. She then calls Gagumber and tells him that if he values his daughter's life, he'll meet her at the place they used to hang out when Rufus was still alive. At that moment, Gagumber realizes that Zaklatu is actually Zack, Rufus's younger brother, and that she was just pretending to be a boy when she was younger. When Gagumber arrives at the meeting location, Zack immediately opens fire on him, but Gagumber refuses to fight back and instead tries to talk some sense into her. During the fight, Zack expresses her anger for Gagumber abandoning Rufus and starting a family of his own. Memempu eventually wakes up from all the commotion and falls down, but Gagumber saves her by activating an illegal chip modification that he had implemented in his body that instantaneously enhances his speed, which he had not used since Rufus died. Memempu cries her heart out as a bloodied Gagumber apologizes for everything he's put her through up till now. Thankfully, he survives, and afterwards, Memempu tells Zack that despite what she did, she still wants to continue traveling with her. While traveling to the next colony, sudden downpour causes everyone to drift, and all four get washed up on a stranded island. With no electricity, no internet, which means no anime recaps, and food supplies running low, Memempu comes up with an ingenious plan to save them. She uses fruits to generate just enough electricity to power up Big Tony and radio for help. While waiting to get rescued, Memempu tells her father that she had a dream in which he died, and that she is afraid that if they continue on this journey, he will die for real. Gagumber replies that they'll go to the place in her dreams, just so he can prove to her that he's not going anywhere. As the SOS goes out, a ship arrives with Mororo there to rescue them. Once on the ship, Mororo clears Yuri and Zack's criminal records. He then explains to the group that all the resources that the colonies need to survive come from the Labyrinth, and that it's his job to preserve everything found in the underworld. He further explains that the ship they are currently on is designed as a sanctuary to preserve all fauna and flora that have lost their natural habitat due to the rapidly changing underworld. While Memempu leaves to go retrieve her plushie, the ship is attacked by an evil organization known as Shibido. Gagumber remembers that her plushie is important to her because it was a birthday gift from him, and sets out to rescue his daughter. She is cornered by an agent of Shibido, who says that their goal is to kill all rainbow children, and kidnaps Memempu. But Gagumber arrives moments later in Big Tony and rescues his daughter. A kaiju suddenly appears, putting an end to the fight and forcing Shibido and everyone else to retreat. After narrowly escaping danger, Memempu and friends arrive at the colony of Freedom Dollars, where all dreams come true. While watching a performance in an opera house, Shibido attacks the colony and kidnaps Memempu again. An all-out war breaks out between Shibido and the colony's Freedom Army. Memempu awakens in a strange facility where the boss of the Shibido organization tells her that she is a rainbow child, and that Gagumber is not her real father. He explains that rainbow children are immune to animus and have much more advanced brains than regular humans. At that moment, Memempu realizes that the place in her dreams was more than just her imagination. It was actually a memory from when she was a baby. The boss goes on to explain that Shibido's true goal is to eradicate the world of rainbow children, and save humanity in doing so. But he says that Memempu isn't like the other rainbow children, although he fails to elaborate on how she differs. Gagumber arrives moments later to save his daughter once again. He was able to find her location with the help of Yuri's hacking, and Zack also helped by clearing a path for him. He fights with the boss, but Big Tony is no match for the boss's more nimble Tony. The boss tells Gagumber that he sincerely feels bad for him, but can't acknowledge him as Memempu's true father. He then empties a barrage of rockets into Big Tony. But before he has a chance to finish off Gagumber for good, Memempu tells the boss that she'll go with him if he spares her father. The boss agrees, but Gagumber adamantly refuses. While walking through the animus fluids that burns through his boots all the way to his feet, he tells Memempu that it doesn't matter if they're not blood related. She is, and always will be, his daughter, and he will always be her father, and he's never abandoning her no matter what. After watching this emotional scene unfold, the boss decides to let them go free, and says he'll come back for the special rainbow child, sometime in the near future. The duo miraculously manage to escape, and arrive just in time to save the colony from being overtaken by the remaining Shibido agents. In the aftermath of the attack, the team is honored in a ceremony, but when it's revealed that despite being honored for their heroic deeds, they are still wanted criminals, they trick Mororo and escape the colony, before continuing on their journey. Thank you so much for watching. Please like, subscribe and click the notification bell so I can see you all again in the next video.